Hey everyone, welcome back to the Robert Timmons Show. We have a special episode here, being our 44th episode. We have an outstanding guest whose organization is in his 44th year of service to the oceans. He co-founded GreenPeace, then founded Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. He is sought after as an incredible speaker, poet, author, and a visionary leader. He has sailed all over the world, been arrested on red alert with the Interpol, and shut down some of the most notorious poachers on this planet. It is my honor to welcome you to the show, Captain Paul Watson. How are you?
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. And you were saying that you're over in Vermont. How is it being on land for a long time now?
Well, you have to, have to accept the conditions as they come. And, I had my travel restrictions because of the Interpol red list have prevented me from going to sea. Hopefully that'll be resolved, sometime soon. But until then, you just have to make do with the situation.
It must be amazing to be able to hang out with your family, though, especially with a beautiful young son you have.
Yeah, he's 4 years old now, and yeah, it keeps me busy, keeps me young.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a 3.5-year-old right now, so I definitely am in the same boat there. But Paul, I want to say that you've accomplished so much that we could be on this show for hours, listening to these incredible journey that you've been on for 44 years, and then some. But let's start off for the listeners. Who was Paul before Greenpeace came into the works?
Well, I started as an activist when I was 11 because I had spent the summer in Eastern Canada where I was raised swimming with a family of beavers. And the next summer when I went back and couldn't find them, found out that they had all been taken out by trappers. And that made me quite angry. And so when I was 11 that winter, I walked the trap lines to free the animals and to destroy the traps. And so I guess I've been doing that ever since. But I ran away to sea when I was 17. I was with the Norwegian and Swedish Merchant Marine, later the Canadian Coast Guard. And then I was the youngest founding member of Greenpeace. Well, first it was the Don't Make a Wave Committee in 1969, and Greenpeace was established in 1972.
Wow, it's just incredible to go back that many years to see, because I know what you've done, and I'm very honored to have you on the show today. You know, you've been arrested, you've been chased out of countries, you sank ships, the past 4 decades, and even, the red notice alerts, that police worldwide are out, being internationally wanted fugitive. It's quite impressive what you've done. Which one of these stories out of the 44 years can you talk about that impacted your life most, and why?
Well, it's hard to really pick out.
Yeah, I bet.
I should point out with the Interpol Red List, I was on the list by Costa Rica and Japan, but with a change of government in Costa Rica, they dismissed the charges against me, which really illustrates how political in nature the charge was. And Japan has made no attempt to request my extradition from the United States or even when I was in France. And so we've been challenging Interpol on the fact that Japan is using Interpol for political means. The Interpol Red Notice is for major drug traffickers, serial killers, and war criminals. And I'm the only person in the history of that list to be placed on there for trespassing. Actually, conspiracy to trespass, didn't actually even trespass, just for
Wow.
thinking about trespassing.
That's incredible because, I think what I've seen, what I've known about you for the last, I think I've known you for about 13 years, been aware of you, and then, of course, met you, that you don't show fear in amongst these things where the average person would. How is your mindset in that? You push yourself into these amazing areas and you do a lot of incredible things. How do you prepare your mind for things like that?
No, I don't really. When you're in a confrontation situation, uh, you don't want to be emotional. You don't want to be angry. You just want to have a clear mind and make decisions. And I find that I can make those decisions best under, duress. So I think that's one of the reasons that we've been able to do like hundreds of confrontation situations and nobody's been injured.
Yeah, that's impressive in itself. And I've met a lot of people that have done a lot of things with Sea Shepherd, and it's impressive what they've accomplished, the passion that they have with the organization. Um, so let's dive into the passion of 44 years. That is still impacting the world with radical, outstanding actions, to save the ocean life. I would love for you to bring us inside one of your mastermind operations. How do you find the ocean issues that attack? You create these campaigns, and what is the process to bring together certain people within your mastermind, and to plan to fold out into a successful action?
Well, Sea Shepherd's no longer an organization. It's evolved over the years into a global movement. And that means that we're in about 42 different countries. They're all separately registered entities, and they're all led by people in those countries. So if it's a movement, there is no one person, including myself, making these decisions as to what to do and how to do it. It's made by those particular directors in those countries. And then on the ships, we have a policy of a chain in command. So the captain is in charge. He or she makes the decision, and we support that. It's all kept together under Sea Shepherd Global, which is organizes the ships, and under the common theme of understanding that we're not going to hurt anybody, and we're going to operate within the boundaries of international law and within the boundaries of practicality. So back in 1977, I set up this strategy after leaving Greenpeace. I set up this strategy called aggressive nonviolence. And that's what we've been doing ever since. We don't hurt anybody, but we're certainly aggressive. And I have no problems with destroying equipment which is being used for illegal purposes. In my mind, that's an act of nonviolence. If somebody's about to shoot an elephant, a poacher, for example, and you take the gun out of his hand and destroy it, that is an act of nonviolence. You saved a sentient life by destroying a non-sentient object used for illegal purposes. The whaling ships that we sunk were illegal. And this has been a theme right from the very early days, that we're an anti-poaching organization. We intervene, we don't protest. And now we've evolved to the point, which began with our partnership with the Galapagos in Ecuador in 1999, to the point now where we're in official partnerships with countries like Peru and Colombia and Mexico and Gambia and Tanzania, Namibia, São Tomé and Liberia, numerous other countries. What that means is that they allow us in their territorial waters. We provide the volunteers, we provide the resources, they provide the authority, which gives us the authority to intervene. So we've arrested over about 60 poaching vessels in African waters over the last 2 years. And I believe quite firmly that if not for our presence in Mexico, the endangered vaquita porpoise would now be extinct. We've seized over 140,000 meters of illegal nets there. So outside of the territorial limits, we still operate under the direction of the United Nations World Charter for Nature, which allows for interventions by individuals and non-government organizations to uphold international conservation law. So we try very hard to stay within those boundaries. About a decade ago, I was invited by the FBI to give a lecture at Quantico. They actually paid me to come and talk to them. And one of the agents said, well, Sea Shepherd's walking a pretty fine line when it comes to the law. And my response was, does it matter how fine that line is, as long as you actually don't cross the line? We don't cross the line.
I love that. That's great. It's so true. If you're on the right side of the law, like, they cannot really do anything. And I think that's what I've seen with Sea Shepherd, over my years is that fine line. Now, I remember you saying that something that you would change a long time ago would be to push things a little harder than you did in the earlier years. Is that understanding that fine line and how you've tweaked it further and further, to get closer to that, so how you can actually act?
Yeah, you have to have a bit of some intuition as to what you can and what you can't do. In hindsight, there's a lot of things I would look back and I said, well, I could have been more aggressive in that situation. But you really have to make the decisions based on your analysis of the situation in the present. And I think that's what we've been able to do quite well. Today, though, we have numerous leaders. I mean, Lamia Salami, president of Sea Shepherd France, she's leading anti-poaching campaigns in Mayotte to protect turtles. She's leading a campaign to stop the killing of dolphins by the French trawler fleets. She's making those decisions. And these leaders, like, for instance, Captain Peter Hammerstein or Sid Chakravarti, these leaders actually they sort of rise in the movement by virtue of the fact that they know how to make those intuitive decisions and to analyze the situation and respond the way they should.
Oh, that's yeah. I was going to mention that. It kind of brings me into my next question with you. To talk about your leadership. I see you as a heroic leader, to be honest with you. With vision, I watch you transfer your vision. When you speak into the hearts of people, ready to hear it. Ready to hear that message that you're sharing. You know, uh, do you see yourself as a leader? Why or why not?
Well, we're all leaders in that sense, but I think that what I do as a leader is delegate. I do that quite well. So, really delegate this to people who can make these decisions and who can operate these campaigns. I mean, it would be near impossible for me to make all these decisions and to lead all these campaigns, and so that way works quite well. And we operate the same way ships operate, with a chain of command. And so when I delegate a campaign to a captain, that captain is in command, and uh, and they report back. And all they have to do is make sure that they don't hurt anybody and that they operate within those boundaries of practicality in the law. And I'm very, very proud of the decisions that may have been made by all of our captains and officers and crew. Over the years, I haven't really got any cause for complaint about them at all.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's definitely leadership quality there because I do see you lifting people up into positions that they are ready for and you're there to support them in that manner. And
Well,
I
to give
do, I definitely see you as a visionary, to be
give you
honest
an
with you.
example of how this works, but let's go back to 1981. I get a call from a man in Scotland. He's a draftsman in Glasgow, and he says, but he's really passionate about saving seals in the Orkney Islands. He said, he calls me up on the West Coast and he says, what are you going to do about protecting seals in the Orkney Islands? And I said, well, I'm on the other side of the planet and you're in Scotland. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? And he said, well, what can I do? And I said, well, use your imagination. And so we helped him put together Sea Shepherd Scotland. This is a man named David McCall. And they went out, he got some volunteers. They went up to the Orkney Islands and very enthusiastic, uh, and walked up to the sealers, literally pulled the rifles out of their hands and threw the rifles into the ocean. And they all got arrested, of course. But there was so much publicity from the trial, which they got acquitted on. There was so much publicity that we raised enough money to buy that island, which is now a seal sanctuary. And it's all because one person said, what can I do? Well, each and
Wow.
every one of us has the power to make that difference. In 1979, I had a crew member, is 19 years old, and he said, what are we going to do about treatment of chimpanzees and other animals in laboratories? I said, not much, because this is Sea Shepherd. I don't think we're going to go into any labs, but if you're so passionate about it, why don't you do something about it? So he went back to Maryland, got a job in a laboratory where he was able to document and expose all that was going on. And he turned that over after a year to the Washington Post and the media, and shut the place down. And then he established an organization called the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And again, it's just one person saying, what can I do? That
Absolutely.
was Alex Pacheco, by the way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad you're sharing that because it's true. A lot of people have that opportunity, but they feel that, it's like they say, get out of your own way to make moves and to push forward, right?
Well, I see you have a portrait of Rob Stewart there. Now, there's another example of somebody who is very passionate, in this case with sharks, and he realized that he had the power to make a difference, and used his skills and his abilities, which were in film, really, and to make that difference. Because what I say is that the strength of an ecosystem is in diversity and interdependence. Therefore, the strength of any movement has to be in diversity and interdependence. So you do what you're passionate about by harnessing your imagination and your courage to passion and use your abilities and skills the best way you can to make a difference. So that doesn't matter whether that approach is education or litigation or legislation or direct action. It really doesn't matter, because all of those approaches are interdependent with each other within a movement.
Yeah, you know what? That brings me back to when I first got into painting ocean advocacy. And someone, I think, I forget who it was over there in England. You were having an event there and they brought it up to get a signature. And you said something like, you're using your paintbrush as a weapon against kind of anti-poaching in a sense. It was kind of the direction, but it's exactly what you're talking about right now, where you use your skills to get it out there. And my skill was my art to give the animals, the ocean animals, a voice. And that's how I became part of, into Sea Shepherd and, running the Toronto chapter there, which, is definitely something that's in my heart forever. But when I first met you, when I, seen you in Sharkwater, for an example, back in 2007, you had one ship, and that was for decades. You always had one ship, but then all of a sudden you got this massive fleet that you're all over the world, and then how was that transition of, from one ship to, now you're handling many? Does this go back to your leadership? You may have answered this already, but
Well, we have 14 ships today, but they're all run by their captains, and they're all coordinated through Sea Shepherd Global, which is under the direction of Alex Cornelissen, who's based in Amsterdam. But the ships themselves are run by their captains and by their crews. And so we could, with this kind of organizational setup, we could have 100 ships and still operate just as efficiently, because we're delegating right all along the way. And we do have to be careful about making sure that we don't do anything that's going to cost us any crew members or is going to kill anybody on that. I mean, recently, for the first time ever, there was a death. A Mexican poacher died, but he rammed his boat into our boat. I mean, there was nothing we could do about it. And so there wasn't anything the captain there could have done to avoid that situation. They were under attack by poachers. We were being attacked with Molotov cocktails and throwing rocks and pieces of iron bar, smashing the windows of the boat. So the captain took evasive measures. The crew all went inside for their self-protection. We have netting there to try and stop the Molotov cocktails and that. And we also had Mexican soldiers on board. And they were very reluctant to shoot anybody. They don't want to do that. So the best measure there was to get out of the area and to move out. So that's what the captain decided to do, was to move out. And they were pursued by the poachers and who were throwing these things. And then one couple of poachers in one boat decided that, well, they're going to really intimidate us, and they just zoomed right across the bow and miscalculated and hit the boat. And one of them died, and one of them's still in critical condition. But that was a situation that was completely unavoidable, very regrettable, but outside of our control. We couldn't do anything about it. So we make sure that we take every precaution to ensure that we don't hurt anybody. And also, we've never had anybody injured.
Right. And I definitely agree with that. Was that with the Vaquita campaign?
On protecting the vaquita. With the vaquita, we're up against the same cartel that is trafficking cocaine and drugs. A very violent group in that. And they shot down our drones. They attack us all the time. But the only alternative is to pull out. We're not going to do that, because if we do, then the vaquita will go extinct. And I'm quite confident that the fact that we've been there for 5 years is the only reason that the vaquita has not been driven into extinction.
Wow. Now, since I've learned, a ton about charities, I've been involved, helping and fundraising, and money is number one to support these charities. Like especially all these ships that you put out there, you definitely need, to put money into it. And I'm trying to change people's mindset on what we're doing here. And can you speak more on the money mindset so people can understand how it helps Sea Shepherd's mission?
Well, the money is not as important as the passion of the volunteers who are involved. Sea Shepherd is a volunteer-driven movement, and we could do nothing without those incredibly passionate and courageous and wonderful volunteers. GreenPeace has a budget of 350 million euros a year, and they have 3 ships. We have a budget of 12 million euros a year, and we have 14 ships. So it's not the money that makes it possible. But we also don't spend any money on fundraising. We don't spend huge amounts on administration or office overhead and things like that. We're not here to promote ourselves. We want to tell people that when you donate $1 to Sea Shepherd, you know where that dollar is going. It's going to operate those ships. And it is difficult. Over the years, what we've relied on capital investments from individuals to get the ships. For instance, Sam Simon sponsored the Sam Simon, the creator of The Simpsons. Bob Barker sponsored the Bob Barker. John Paul DeJoria sponsored the John Paul DeJoria. Chris Sharp sponsored the Sharpie. Same with Bridget Bardot and Farley Moa. This is how we get the ships. Then the volunteer or the support base, I mean, the support base actually provides the funds to maintain and operate those ships. But the hard part is getting the funds to actually secure the vessel in the first place. And that can only be done by generous individuals.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Like Bob Barker, I think he's asked you this question, if I can remember. If I get you a ship, will you stop the whaling? And you said yes, and you pretty much you did. You
Well,
know,
yeah, he said, what do you think it would take? And I said, a ship. And he said, how much you, I said, maybe $5 million. He says, okay, you got your $5 million. And I'll throw in another 250 for a helicopter.
I love it. I love it. Bob's awesome.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Bob is that he didn't want me to name the ship after him. In fact, he really didn't want the publicity. But I convinced him that it would be a good thing because of his name. To associate his name with what we were doing would be a very good public relations thing for the entire movement. And so he agreed with that. But he really was not into it for, for any recognition.
I can see that. So Paul, you got 14 ships. Can you kind of give us an idea of where they are, what certain campaigns you got going on, so our listeners can really feel the strength of Sea Shepherd's mission?
Well, the Sam Simon right now has just arrived in the Bay of Biscay, so it's going to take on the French fishing fleet and the killing of dolphins there. The Bob Barker is off the west coast of Africa, working with Gambia and Liberia and Gabon, and to stop poachers there. The Sharpie and the Farley Mowat are presently in the Sea of Cortez in Mexico to protect the Vaquita, and they'll soon be joined by the John Paul de Joria, which is presently in Florida, but which will be leaving. The White Holly is about to embark for Colombia to protect Mapello Island National Park and to work with the Colombian authorities there. The Ocean Warrior is now in Peru, working to oppose the vast Chinese fishing fleet and their operations in the Eastern Tropical Pacific. The Martin Sheen is doing research with scientists from Mexico, and 2 months ago actually made an amazing discovery. They discovered a new species of whale, a new species of beaked whale in the waters off of Mexico, which is absolutely amazing to discover a new species of whales in 2020. And then we have the Emmanuel Bronner, which is doing patrols in the Baltic, and the Connor, which is doing anti-poaching patrols in the Mediterranean. And the Steve Irwin, we've retired and is now like a museum educational center in Williamstown in Australia. Oh, wow. And we have a new ship, but we haven't released its name or its operations yet. It's just secured it.
Oh, I love that. I love that you got another ship coming out too. But what kind of people are you looking for to join Sea Shepherd's mission, and where can they go to get the process started?
Well, anybody can get a crew application off from Sea Shepherd's website. And so what we're looking for is passionate people. Of course, we're always looking for engineers, navigators, medical people, and sailors and seamen, seawomen and that. But we've always been wanted to give everybody who's passionate an opportunity to be involved. And a lot of our crew learn while they're on board. Now, the interesting thing, we've been criticized in the past because of our amateur crew, and which people say is irresponsible. But I just go back to the words of Ernest Shackleton in 1911 when the London Times attacked him for having an amateur crew. And he said, well, he didn't have any professionals. He said, I don't want professionals. I need people with the passion to get where I need to go, and I'm not going to get that with professionals. And that's what I have experienced also. I couldn't pay professionals to do what these people do for nothing. That kind of courage, that kind of work, that kind of effort it's amazing. You can only do that if you're a volunteer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm one that used to be a volunteer on a consistent basis, and it's brought me skills. Public speaking, networking, organizing, leading passionate people, which is very delicate at times. So definitely go there. Go to that seashepherd.org. Depending on where you are in the world, search it. like Paul says, they're everywhere. They are. It's a movement. I even got a tattoo on my back with Sea Shepherd. But beautiful, beautiful work that they do and that you do, Paul. I want to thank you. It's been an honor to have you on my show today. And I want everybody who sees this message, feels, the passion to save ocean life, share this show today. And every week we have amazing people like Paul on our show, and I appreciate your time, Paul. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you like more, click the videos right here. They're exactly what you need to see next. If you're new here, hit subscribe and become part of the community, and tell me what you think about the videos in the comments below. I read all of them every week, and join my Mind Power Mastery group by hitting the link in the description.